I know that's no, there isn't. Yeah, I grabbed the studio. All right. Yeah, I think that you guys will not fix each other. Thank you. We've got space.
Oh, no, not no.
Were you looking at me?
Yes.
Yeah, I heard the same deal.
I'll have to.
Hey guys, all that we are trying to, I need all of you on teams. Just one sec. No, only one second. We got a bunch of people on teams. I'm trying to get them to even like, okay.
So I don't know if everybody heard that. I know we're about 5 minutes, not quite, almost 5 minutes behind.
Mute that or turn it off.
Time. We have several folks who are on virtual who launch Teams. So we've got to get them off Teams and back into Zoom so that they can join us, so that they don't miss any of the details as we get started. And where is the best place? The owl is here.
Everybody on team, unless I need you to go to the
Zoom meeting about our funding. A Zoom meeting about our funding.
You are on teams. They have that meeting here. I need you to go to Zoom. Yeah.
You all.
Yeah. I plan on it. Perfect, yeah. And then if you're not in a visitor spot, you do have parking passes as well. In the back here. Kimberly's gonna go do it.
Another organization today. And they're not getting funding. They're not.
Everyone on the team, so
Should be. I'll make that an announcement too. So we're gonna ask everyone on virtual feed, if you would please mute yourself. And then you can open back up if you have questions or you're joining the conversation. We missed.
Nadia, Prince, Gary, Laura, Beth, I need you all going over to the Zoom link. Look at the chat, go to the Zoom link. Annie, Gary, Jess, Cordell, I need you to go over to the Zoom link, please. Beth, can you hear me? Beth Hunter, I need you, Hunter, I need you to go over to the Zoom link. Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay.
All right, so are we ready to start? And if so, let me start by saying thank you all for coming back out. I know that a lot of us have been spending a lot of time together in meetings and conversations over these last few weeks. And I appreciate the time you're given, not just to this process. Are you having trouble hearing me in the back?
Yeah.
Thank you. And I say that because I'm often told that I don't need a mic. Do we have a mic available?
We don't.
We do not. Okay, so I
Don't
will.
walk too far away because then we won't be able to pick up on Zoom either.
Okay.
We're doing the best we can.
So I'm gonna talk really, really loud. I don't want to offend anybody. I'm gonna use my grandma voice. So if you have questions and hearing me, please just raise your hand and I'll keep putting the volume up. Thanks for being here today. I'm Helen Jones Kelly, the Executive Director of the Alcohol, Drug Addiction and Mental Health Services System for Montgomery County. And very, very happy that we get this chance to talk with you today about funding as we move forward. So I'm not going to provide all the details of the next steps. However, I want to provide a bit of level set for those of you who have not been in meetings with us over these last few weeks as we've talked about this. And it helps, I think, for me to put this information back in front of you in terms of why. Because why helps everyone to understand where we're going. And again, thank you, because our contracted providers have really been working with us as a system of care through the entire pandemic. And we were one of the few counties in the state of Ohio that was able to keep services going through that entire period. So that says a lot. Adamus doesn't provide direct services. So that's not an Adamus win, that's a community win. The other piece of that, though, as we come out of the pandemic, is that we see increased need throughout our greater county area. And so we're doing things, of course, within county, but there are other things we're doing in conjunction with other counties to try to address that increase as we're continuing to move forward. Our base budget, as we launch this funding cycle for this year, is different than it has been in previous years. Part of that is that over the last 2 years, this year and last year, we have a $5 million drop or reduction in our base levy budget. That's not something that the commissioners took away from us. That was a $10 million give back to the Human Services Levy Bank, if you will. And there's a reason for that, because some people have asked, well, why would you do that? We did that because we were sitting on a great deal of reserves, and those aren't our dollars. These are taxpayer dollars, and we work to be very, very solid stewards of the public trust that is placed in us with taxpayer dollars. So sitting on reserves, instead of putting them back into, and when I say put them back, not asking for those dollars over that 2-year period, allow those dollars to be available for other agencies. Keep in mind, we are a multiple county levy process. Unlike other counties where many of you may be operating, there is a single purpose levy for Adams funds. We don't have that. We have a collaborative levy process. So we were able to allow those monies to be available for other levy purposes for human services in the community for this 2-year period. And I think that's really important to know, because we fortunately had other funding coming to us. We have state funds, we had grant funds, we have a variety of funds coming to us. But we've now hit that point, just like you, where some of those other funds are either flat or no longer available in this time frame, especially when we're looking at grants. So we're writing a lot of grants right now to try to replenish some of that discretionary funding, but we're also going to be going forward in this cycle towards the end of this year for our next calendar year of funding. We operate on a calendar year, except for one of the changes, and it's probably the one that's striking many people the most. And that's with our prevention funding and our prevention services. Again, we have been able to expand prevention services beyond the expectation and funding of the state of Ohio over the last several years. And I know many of you know that. We aren't mandated to provide prevention services to the extent that we are mandated to provide treatment and supportive services to the community. So our ability to utilize grants and other funding to expand those services has certainly served our community well. But we can't keep doing it the way we've been doing it, in that we're relying a lot on levy dollars for those purposes. And the levy dollars, last dollars in, are to manage mandated services. So I want you to keep that in mind too. So this year, we are implementing a change in prevention, and that is we're moving our prevention funding to a calendar year cycle. It has been on a state fiscal year cycle until this point. So we've been using the dollars that we get from the state and then supplementing that funding with levy dollars. But in a period where we are spending down reserves and don't have that high level of levy dollars, we have to look very strategically at how we sustain programming. And right now, our struggle is managing to get to January 25. So I just want to set the stage for the conversation. And I know for many of you, this is redundant. You've heard this already. But for new people who may be in the room or joining us on the screen, it's important for you to know the why of these changes. The other piece is, just like many of you, we're writing for grants every single day. And we do have a grants manager on our team now who is going to be able to help us put all of that work under one umbrella. Some of it will be for bringing in operational dollars for Adamus, but some of it will be for bringing in additional dollars in collaboration with all of you as our providers. So I hope that helps. Ask any questions right there on that part. And those of you who are on the screen, you can throw it into chat. If you're on phone, you can unmute. And the reason I'm saying throw it in the chat, we are recording this session so that those of you who want to go back and spend some time with it after today's conversation, or for those people who couldn't make it into the room, either virtually or in person, they'll be able to pull it up off our website and on our YouTube channel if they would like to be able to review it as well. So when we're all talking, am I still in grandma's? When we're all talking, could I ask everybody to please speak up so that we can capture all the information and your questions as we go, because if you have the question, someone else may have it too. And may not want to stand up and ask it. We need to get all the questions out onto the floor so that everybody has a full understanding of where we're headed with this process.
So just to be clear, the existing funding that's supporting prevention and treatment, it would have traditionally ended on fiscal year 24, which would be June 30th. And there's a gap between fiscal year 25, which would begin July 1st. So programming for prevention will be funded through a calendar year, which will begin January 1st. So what's happening in the gap?
And that's what we're gonna be talking a lot about today. Getting to the end of the year, because you're absolutely correct, that the funding for prevention services ends on June 30th. And so we have to provide a way to bridge funding. So that's probably a great segue. I think I bring up, who am I gonna bring up first? Oh, I'm gonna bring up treatment supportive services. And then we'll talk about the prevention cycle and the way that we're looking at those services moving forward. All right. All right, I'm gonna get out of the way.
Hop over here so I can have some of this.
No, you're fine.
All righty, good afternoon, everybody, and happy Friday. And for all of the fathers, soon-to-be fathers, or even families in general, happy Father's Day. I hope everybody has a great weekend, and I have a couple slides to go over with you. I am gonna stand back here. Can you hear me?
I have to change for you. I have them.
You have them? Oh,
So
okay.
just tell me when you want me to change it.
Okay, great. Well, then Tina's gonna change them for me. Can everybody hear me in the back? Yes. Okay, so as Helen mentioned, the prevention component of this to kind of bridge that gap for the next 6 months, that's gonna be a much larger conversation. Treatment and supportive services. Last fall, you all did your application for calendar year 24. That application is done. So we just need some revisions to that, okay? So before I get into that, you guys can see that we have our new mission and vision statements up here. Those were recreated and revised this past, I don't know, I want to say spring maybe, by our board of trustees. So, but we can move to the next slide. And just, if we start here, so with the money, as we've all been talking about, we have multiple allocations. We've got some that are federal that we apply for a grant. We've got some that are actually managed by the state, but they're actually coming from the federal level. We also have just the state allocations. Some are very specific to certain programs, and some are straight pass through to providers or maybe to a court system. And then we also obviously have some levy and additional grants that, as you all have been applying for, we've been applying for. So for treatment and supportive services, to move through the next 6 months, your contracts are going to have a combination of some federal, state, and potentially levy dollars. So we can move to the next one. All right, so one of the things that Helen mentioned that I want to be able to talk about today is our continuum of care and the services that through Ohio Revised Code, we are required to have in our community. And as you can see, the mandated services really covers pretty much everything. It covers prevention all the way over to treatment. Where it gets a little complicated, not want to say complicated, but this is where I'm going to be honing in on. Next slide. Is this portion here, 340-033. So within the continuum of care that we are required to provide, there is an additional component of minimum treatment that we must have in our community, and it is around the substance use treatment. So as we move forward with funding for the next 6 months, it is imperative that we focus on these right here. So treatment and supportive services, we will be focusing on the subacute detox, non-intensive, intensive outpatient, MAT, peer support, residential services, recovery housing. These are listed in Ohio Revised Code, section 340-033. Under that section, that is a minimum standard that we must have. So I do want to point that out. You can do next slide. And then we always mention for you guys the county priority alignment. Feel free to go to Adamus website. You'll see our strategic plan that our board of trustees put together. You also can see our community plan as it ties into what we submitted to OMAS, the things that we're focusing on within our community. And then we have our joint strategic plan and public health community improvement plan. So just things to be aware of. So when we're making decisions, we are looking at the plans that are in place with our board, with the state, and we want to make it align. We're not just like randomly doing things. So for treatment and supportive services, for those of you that work with me and my team, and some of you also work with Tristan and her team. So we're going to try to make this as painless as possible. If there's certifications, licensure that's duplicative, we're only going to have you turn it in once, okay? We don't need you to be doing it 352 times. So for treatment and supportive services, you can go to the next slide. I do want to indicate that we're not looking to expand services. I also want to reiterate, you already did calendar 24 application. Okay, everybody deep sigh of relief. So we have a handful of providers that may need to do a brand new application. I will get to that later. But for the most part, most of you in this room that are with treatment or virtually, hello, we know that you've already done this. So what we're going to be doing, and this ties in, I tend to be all over the place, but as you can see, this ties into the focus. This is our strategic board plan. So that ties into crisis response. Obviously, we're going to be having community meetings around that. And I hope that you all attend and join us for those discussions. If you have not seen the invites for that, please let us know. Obviously, housing is obviously a massive need in the community. And then looking at data and how we can work with the familiar faces in our community. You can do next slide. Okay. Yeah, and so licensure and accreditation. So it's important that when you are going into your application, for those of you that have already applied, what's going to happen is Emma Monday morning is going to reopen the portal. You guys are going to be able to go in there. Please double check calendar 24 treatment providers. Is your OMAS licensure certification the most up to date? It probably is, because we just did this last fall, right? If you have Joint Commission, CARF, if you're an affiliate of NAMI, if you are recovery housing certified, government entity, any of those pieces, please double check all your licensure, all your certifications, make sure those are the most up to date. And if they're not, you can just upload it where the additional documents are. You can do next slide. Some of the other things, so for your application that you already completed, what's going to happen is I'm going to be sending in corrections and it'll be inside the portal. Make sure that you have your statements of DEI work. One other things that we added is for clients' rights officers, we really need to have evidence that you have an identified client's rights officer, that's posted on your website. And we also need a copy of your client's rights. Most of you have already done that. Kaylin, she's our client's rights officer, and she's kind of been going around making sure we have all of that. Chrissy will go over later the fiscal requirements and continue to just look at the offerings that we have on our website for training around SBIRT, motivational interviewing, and some of those components. You can do next slide. So now let's talk about the timeline. So, and this has actually been updated since. So what I will share with you is that we will provide a template for you for carryover requests. So if you are a treatment provider and you have not spent down all of your dollars, you will fill out this template that we provide to you. And you will send, and you can actually upload that in your application for funding. So we have an updated slide for this, so we'll make sure we get you guys copies of that. That will be due in your application for funding by June 21st at 5 p.m. And Chrissy will be able to show you guys that template here in a little bit. By June, I think we have the wrong PowerPoint up here.
This is an updated copy of the PowerPoint, yes.
Yeah,
Okay, let me stop sharing.
okay. So here's,
What I will tell you is, because I noticed I just was trying to pass through the information. We will have this posted on our website as well as on our YouTube channel, so that if you especially because of the date of date, that will be available to you guys in the we'll make sure that it's posted.
yes, so here's the correct. So I will just share with you, June 17th, the application portal will open. Be on the lookout for corrections sent for your applications. I just said this, please ensure that all your certifications, licensure, any documentation like that is the most up-to-date information. You can upload that because like I said, most of you have already done this application. Zoom meeting invites will be scheduled to take place the week of June 21st. So next week, I will be sending invites for the week of June 21st to meet, to go through the application, the corrections that were put in the portal, and to discuss specifically budget. So there is a difference. Remember, prevention and treatment are apples and oranges. We are one team and we work on the same continuum, but it is slightly different. So with treatment and supportive services, you have already applied for calendar year 24. We will be meeting with you to talk about some of the changes. Please refer to the letter that you received from our Board of Trustees that also outlines the way that we will be moving forward with some of those budgets and how we're writing some of those things that through the pandemic and being, supportive through the pandemic for our providers, some of those things we're having to kind of right size. Oh, there we go.
I have control of
Oh,
it.
you're,
Yeah. But I'm not putting it on presentation mode because I'm also monitoring the chat.
you are
Best
doing,
can over
you
here.
are multitasking all the way,
I am
Tina.
doing that, So bear with me.
So carryover template, like I said, that can be uploaded to EC Impact if applicable to you. By June 28th, submit your corrections in the portal. I'm gonna put all that information in there. I have Emma's information on here. It's also gonna be in the PowerPoint. So if you are a provider that was not able to apply for funding last fall for treatment and supportive services, you will need to do a full application. I'm gonna pass it over to Emma because I want her to share with you the steps that need to happen because we have several different moving pieces here. So Emma, take it away.
Hi, everybody. My name is Emma Goldinger. I'm the Quality Improvement Coordinator for Treatment and Supportive Services. This slide. Okay, so if you were a provider that received funding in the first 6 months of 2024, your application's already filled out. I'm just gonna open the portal on Monday. The person that was the main point of contact for that application will be able to sign in just like you guys did. If you're having issues getting in the system, there is a forgot password situation, but if you're still having trouble, just go ahead and email me. My email address is up on here. If you're a provider that received funding in 2023, but not in 2024, and you're looking to apply for funding, you will need to just email me with your name, your agency, your email address, and your title. And I want to reiterate that is not necessarily for CEOs. It could be just your main point of contact for the application. This person is going to receive all email communication about the application process. So if you have a director or somebody else, some other staff that's going to be taking the application process, you want that person to be the information you're emailing me. You can go ahead and do the next slide. If you're a new provider who has not received funding from us, or you received funding from us prior to 23, then you're going to need to request a new account. We're going to email you these slides. You'll have that hyperlink for EC Impact. That is our new provider portal that we're utilizing. I included a little screenshot here. On that login page at the bottom, you're going to see request a McAdamus provider portal account, and you're just going to follow the instructions. It's pretty easy. You're going to enter in all your information, contact info, address, UEI, all that good stuff. And if you have any questions, I'm available. And then when you're doing your applications, I have recorded a video with instructions and I go through the whole application process. We'll show you how to enter your agency info, all of your program info, budgets. It's a tell-all video. It's on our YouTube page, but we're also going to put it on our website on Monday morning. It's under the AFF tab on the main page of our website. And it'll be a little hyperlink to the YouTube video. That's all I have. I'm gonna pass it over to Tristan. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. If you are intending or interested in applying for prevention and early intervention services and did not already pick up one of these packets, please do so. I'm gonna go through what we're looking for. As many of you know, existing providers, this is gonna look a little different this year compared to years previous. We've had some of those conversations. I will say, please, like this document, my team has been working around the clock on this, so we've tried to foresee any potential issue or situation that we could be in and account for that. So we're gonna move through. I'm gonna kind of give you an overview of what we're working on, what funds we're working on. Some of them you can see in your packet how much is going to be available. I do want to note that this will be a 6-month funding process unless noted otherwise, and every funding, I will say funding opportunity has the dates listed on that. So if there isn't one, then that would be a 6-month, July 1 through December 31st funding opportunity. You know. Licensure and accreditation requirements, this actually did change, I believe, in October. So OMOS certification is required for every organization applying for these funds, except for in cases where there's an educational entity, a health department, a faith-based organization that's working with a current provider on getting their credential, and then an FCFC council. So that information is all here. That will be sent out to all of you as well. State funded opportunities. These are opportunities that come through the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. These allocations have to align with their descriptions. So you'll see in here, I have included the descriptions of all of the different funds. That's essentially OMOS language. So know that we have to adhere as closely as possible to those. We have the Gambling Addiction Prevention Services. That will be a 6-month contract. This is for either evidence-based prevention curricula that includes a gambling component, a gambling evidence-based prevention curricula, or a screening tool that includes a gambling screening using a validated instrument. Early intervention services, because of the amount in that allocation, there is $55,000 in that allocation. We're just making that a full year contract. So know that that is available. And then primary prevention services, the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services has placed emphasis on PACS Good Behavior Game and behavioral health and wellness coordinators. For those of you in the room, there are links attached to this. They will also be online for you to be able to get a full breakdown of what those wellness coordinators look like. We understand that we have not actually contracted with a behavioral health provider on this. So this will be a new service for any behavioral health provider that chooses to apply for those funds. Next. Federal funded opportunities. These ones, you can see when the contract dates are. They're both on a federal fiscal year. The Zero Suicide Initiative run through SAMHSA. That will be August 31st through August 30th of 2025. And then we'll have different requirements on that based on, so that'll be a different application process, all within our EC Impact portal, based on the requirements that we are asked for of our federal funders. And then the Demonstrating Effective Policies to Promote Black Youth Mental Health, the PROTECT initiative. Many of you have been involved with the Protect Initiative. We're also accepting applications for that. I was gonna add a piece in there. It'll come back to me. All right, next slide. Levy funded carryover opportunities. This is the first year that we are doing this, just given the state of everything, shifting our funding year, current finances. We are offering an opportunity for applicants that have money remaining or funds remaining in their budget to apply for a carryover. I do want to note, and I'll kind of get into this a little bit later, we have a matrix of how we're going to be scoring everything. So the requirements for carryover aren't going to be as detailed because this is already an existing program. So we're not going to need all of the information on what that program would look like. We expect that that program would align with the program already being put in place. So if requesting a carryover, the following will be required, explaining the reason for the unobligated balance, indicating how your organization will utilize those funds, and completing a budget worksheet, and then providing the budget worksheet as well as a budget narrative if you're reallocating dollars and where those will go. And remaining local funds. So this is, I think, the big piece that we've had extensive conversation about. I don't know what these funds will look like if there are funds at all. So level setting, I want to put that out there. My guess is there will be something, but also if everyone spends down their dollars, then there will not be funds available for this. I do want to say everybody that's applying for funding will be considered for this. So if you're looking at applying for maybe gambling prevention services, and you maybe want to apply for this fund as well, we're automatically going to put you in that bucket. So if we have 2 really great gambling prevention services, then that would be considered as well, using the scoring matrix in your packet. All right. Outcome reporting. This year, we are requiring more information about the outcomes. We want to know how you're evaluating your program. And if you have a plan to adapt your program based on the results that you're getting, pre and post test or screening or whatever your evaluation instrument may be. So just know that as you go through the application process, and it's also detailed again in the RFP here, that we will be looking at that, and that will actually be reported on in either your quarterly outcomes or as defined by you, if it's maybe mid-year and then end of year, and this period it would just be at the end of the 6 months. But this is something we will be implementing moving forward. And then we are requiring a breakdown of demographic information as well. And then pretty sure I just said all of this. Yeah, we're good there. Staff requirements, all positions listed in the budget for state and levy funded providers must adhere to attendance of MCPC meetings. That's obviously going to be decreased with a 6-month funding period, again, outlined in the RFP. Trainings outlined in the RFP, we heard that the trainings are a lot, and as we're moving in a 6-month period, we know that that's not feasible. We are requiring mandated reporter training for anybody that hasn't received it. I think within the last year, that's just something everybody has to have. But everything else, we were kind of doing away with until we move to a full calendar year. Must have a credential or licensure to practice prevention services in the state of Ohio. That's an Ohio revised code mandate. That's not an Adamus mandate. And then meeting 50% productivity for all positions on the budget. And the evaluation of applications, you'll see as you're working through, or as you're looking through this, state and levy or local funded programs will be evaluated differently than federally funded, just because, again, we have different requirements from our federal funders. So as you're looking through those, if you have questions, obviously feel free to reach out to us, and we will answer those to the best of our ability. And I think Chrissy's going to talk about fiscal requirements.
What?
Can I ask a question? Sorry.
Yes.
Can the Zoom attendees get a electronic copy of this packet? It's being referred to a lot and I don't think anyone has it based on the chat.
Yes. That was sent out.
Is that what you sent me?
Mhm.
Okay, sorry, guys. Now I'm quadruple tasking, so.
No, you're fine.
Okay, thank you.
If there are any staff on Zoom, maybe they could put that in from the share drive.
Let me see if I.
Good question. Sorry for everyone online. That was probably
a copy, because your slides are different than what we have.
of the slides. They'll be uploaded on the website after this. Yep.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you, Tristan.
If there are discrepancies between the slides and the RFP, please reach out to me as soon as possible and let me know. We'll make any of those changes. So, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Tina, you can go to the next slide. Hello, I am Chrissy Sanders. I'm the CFO for Adamus. So we'll make sure, because this is a lot of information, we'll make sure that we send both this PowerPoint presentation and the notice of funding opportunities that Tristan has to all of you so that you all have that information for you. So now we'll talk about the fiscal requirements. They have not changed except for one small piece, okay? So a couple of things that we're needing for you as providers to provide to us in order for you to stay compliant and we stay compliant with the state and federal standards. The first one is the UEI number, which is the unique entity identifier. This is also referred to as a SAM number. You need that number to receive federal grant funding. The other piece of information we need is a certificate of good standing. This also can be known as a certificate of authorization or certificate of existence. There is a website that you can go to make sure that yours is there, or you can apply for it and it is referenced there. The insurance piece is a lot. Yes.
Quick question about the certificate of good standing. Do we get a new one every year? Or are they good for a certain amount? Like ours comes to the date where it ends on it?
They're good for a certain amount of time. I don't believe that you need to get a new one every single year. But they are good for a certain amount of time, but I'll verify that and follow up.
Great, thank you.
Sure, no problem. And a lot of these things, if you have current ones, especially treatment, since you all just applied at the fall of last year, and it's still good for this year, just make sure all of those compliance pieces are in the compliant section of EC Impact, and Vic will cover that a little bit later. So on the insurance piece, one important thing about insurance is that Adamus for Montgomery County needs to be named as the insured or certificate holder on your company's liability insurance. So we are looking that you have professional liability insurance, employer's liability insurance, automobile insurance if you are transporting clients, director and officers insurance, and workers' compensation insurance for your employees. And those limits and minimums are listed there as well. Next slide. So then here comes the audit piece. I get a lot of questions about the audit. What type of audit do I need? We need an entire audit package, whether it's the financial statement audit or not. It needs to have the audit report with an opinion, the management letter, and a corrective action plan if that is applicable to your organization. The audit must be conducted using generally accepted governmental account auditing standards, and it must have an opinion, as I mentioned before. It needs to be performed by an independent public accountant. Now, if you are an agency that receives $750,000 or more in federal funding, you should have already had a federal single audit performed. If you are not sure if that's you, please feel free to reach out to me and I will have that conversation with you. Tasha from my team, she has reached out to many of you asking for you to submit your audits if that is you and you have a current one for your last fiscal year, you do not need to worry about re-uploading it. We will upload it to EC Impact on your behalf. Next slide. So then we talked about the organizational budget. You will need to submit your budget for your organization. You will also need to submit a carryover request form, which is new, and that will be included in EC Impact. This is the next piece that I said you don't have to worry about. Historically, there was a calculator where you yourself could calculate the key performance indicators. We will do that on your behalf until we can get that loaded into EC Impact. If you have any questions about the funding there, we have funding information that you can reference. So now let's talk a little bit about the contract process from a high level view, because there's a lot of conversations that both prevention and treatment will be having with your organizations. In the meantime, when you're submitting, when we're reviewing, if there's questions, there's going to be conversations that are taking place, okay? So once you submit your application, the team will review it. You will have Tristan, you will have Kimberly review it, Fiscal will review all of those compliant pieces as well. We will then, after having those conversations and aligning our budget with what can be offered, we will make a recommendation to the Program and Services Committee of our Board of Trustees. Then the board will approve those contracts. And once they approve it, then we can move to actually make a contract where we're signing it and your agency is signing it as well. Next slide. As part of that contract, one of the things we want to make sure that needs to be taken care of is the OMOS assurance statement that needs to be signed. We mentioned that you also need to provide a financial audit, but I want to mention again, if you get a new audit performed, you need to be sending that new audit to us as soon as it becomes available. And that is the same with your insurance liability. Within 30 days of you renewing your insurance, you should be sending that certificate to Adamus's team. So just as a reminder, your funding contract is contingent on our public funds and what we have available. So we reserve the right to reject a proposal or fund less than the requested amount because we can only fund what is available to us. If once you get your, or I shouldn't say if, but when you get your contract, if you have any requests for adjustments, that really needs to go through Helen Jones Kelly. She is the only one that can authorize those changes. Okay. Do I have any questions about any of those compliance piece or the contract piece? Okay, then I'm going to pass it over to Vic.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Victor Vrabel. I'm a program coordinator here at the Adamus Board for the Prevention and Early Intervention team. Here is our website for the EC Impact, the one that we keep on referring to. Is anybody not in EC Impact in this room? Cool. All right. Make sure it's through us and not HSPD because we use the same system, but ours is unique to us. Next slide, please. All right. Emma covered this a little bit. Go to this website. If you didn't have access, request a new website. I like screenshots. Next slide. To create a login for somebody, for everybody who's in the portal right now, to create a login for somebody else that you would like to have access, go to contacts, and down here, this little blue thing, it says add new, enter all their information. We'll get an alert on our side, and then we'll put them into the system. Okay, next slide, please. All right, for prevention, early intervention only. You don't have to load these into the application anymore because a lot of you have been getting emails from me saying that this is about to expire, this is expired. I get an email monthly saying when something's is expired or going to expire in 60 days. So you just upload it into the compliance section of EC Impact, and that would suffice. Yes,
That new providers don't fall under that, right? That's only. for-
correct. If you're a new provider, you just put it into the application. Okay? And through the budget upload, any program submitted for funding consideration must provide a budget. The budget spreadsheets we have are the ones you need to use. They're going to be right up here in the budget summary form. They're there as well as in the resource center of EC Impact. Okay, next please. And applications will not be cloned this year, meaning all providers will need to re-enter their agency information just like last year. Any uploaded blank documents without prior permission from us will result in an incomplete submission and the application will not be considered for funding. Please make sure you submit your application on the finalized page. Please make sure you resubmit your application. Changes are requested from board staff. And next. June 14th, agency. Applications are available at 3 p.m. They're going to be open at 3 o'clock today. So get in.
Just a reminder, this is prevention, early intervention only.
June 21st, that's when the 2855 is when the application's due. All right, next.
I think we've lost I'm advanced, but it's not showing up there. It's at our stable. There we
Oh, okay. Things like it was in the past couple of years is available on our website as well as the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint will also be available in a news item in EC Impact. I'll try and get that up today. Also, if you have any questions about the application, I looked at the last two FAQs from the past applications and try to see if I get some more information for everybody regarding what these questions actually mean, give more context. So check here with that little green thing. It'll pull down a nice little description for a lot of the questions. And every other question you have about the prevention, early intervention application, send them to me. And we're done.
I do want to know, our packet says 4 p.m. For deadline, but the PowerPoint says 5 p.m. So I will change it to 5 p.m. just because we said it.
I have questions in the chat, but give me a second. I'm putting the PowerPoint in here first so they can have it. Okay, it's not gonna go in chat. It's too big. So let's see if anybody has questions here while I go back and look for questions in the chat. Does anybody have questions for our team? I have one. Kimberly? Is she here? Yeah, there you are. When you say corrections in the portal, what's that exactly looking like? What are we supposed to be seeing there? I know we're gonna also need, but how does that look? And is it a cut or a correction? So if I had thank you, Ellen. So what a correction is, how we view it, and is that, does a correction mean a cut, or it might be something else that we're to attend to?
Sure. So I will pop up here so everybody can hear me. Lisa with South Community had asked how will she locate the corrections that I was speaking to? Does a correction mean a cut? No, that's not what any of that means. It means when within the application, there may be a way that you described your programming. And maybe you said last year you would serve 100 people, but as you're looking at the numbers, you're like, it's gonna be 200 people. There may be typos. I mean, if we're talking, this could be very basic things like we need you to correct a number here, or we need you to clarify a statement here. There's actually a section within the portal, what's it called, Vic, where we put the comments?
On our side,
Yeah,
well, the evaluation side.
yeah. So there's a section in the evaluation side where I'll type all that in. And then you guys will be able to pull that up and look at it and go, oh, these are the corrections that need to be made. Like I said, it's nothing punitive, it's nothing along those lines. It's more, a lot of times, just about usually like clarifying like some quality data or questions or things like that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Mhm.
Is the carryover template required for both treatment and prevention?
Yes.
And for treatment, you can upload that in your application. Your treatment and support services, your application is reopening on Monday. You will be able to upload that into the section called additional documents.
Really stand back over this way for the hearing purposes when you're speaking, please.
Sorry, the light.
No, you're good, you're good,
I need sunglasses.
you're good.
Maybe, how about this? Does this work?
What else? I know the questions here. Let me just double check.
Nancy?
I have a suggestion, this might be really weird, but you guys have done like a ton of work in a very short amount of time, it's great. And there's a lot of work that people that have to write in a short amount of time. And there's not, forgetting the carryover money, that's different. But there's about $650,000 that we can request. And everybody in this room has great programs and we should all be in this together and for each other. But if everybody's gonna like work really hard to go after that little bit of money, it seems like, wow, that's a lot of work. I wonder if there would be a way, if everybody thought about it over the weekend and said, this fits us really well, we're gonna go after this money. And this fits our program really well. And then maybe like by Monday, they let you know, hey, our agency's gonna ask for this. And then somehow we publicized, this is what we're gonna apply for. And then people look at it and say, you know, there's like 10 agencies applying for this money. Maybe that's not one that I'm gonna work on. And I know that sounds really weird, and I don't know if that breaks any state laws or federal laws, but I'd be inclined to say, hey, I'm not gonna spend 20 hours writing this thing if 10 people are already working on it. And good for you, I hope you get the money. I don't know.
So, yeah, we've thought about that. We've thought about we've played a lot of what ifs in our head, right? So there are a couple of things that we've done to combat that as much as we can in terms of should provider, like, I don't know, that would be something for me to run past legal counsel and Adamis's role for that, but in terms of providers, if you guys want to organize that, I'm completely okay with that. One of the pieces that we put on there intentionally was a measure on collaboration. Because we want, if there are two programs doing very similar things, and Adamus hears this all the time, like, how are you cutting down siloed services? So if there are two programs doing the same thing, it's going to be more competitive. You're gonna get a higher score if you are listing how you're working with that additional organization on your application. So that's one piece of it. The other piece of it is, and I don't know what these remaining dollars are gonna look like. I don't know if there will be remaining dollars. It's my hope that there is. But you don't have to apply for those remaining dollars. So if we do have, you know, all of the providers go for, I'm just using problem gambling prevention because nobody really applies for it and it's the easiest one to use. If everybody goes for that and they're all great applications and the funds are available to fund all of it, and by scoring on our matrix here, if that's what rises to the top, then we'll leverage those dollars, those remaining dollars to fund whatever that program is. I will say, we're also looking at like, not just focusing on problem gambling. We do want to make sure that we have a variety of services, but So to get like the extra remaining dollars, do you have to have applied for one of these other grants? No, no, that's, you can apply for one of them, and even if you're not awarded, if there are remaining dollars, we can utilize those. Or you can just choose to apply for those dollars if they're available.
Trustee, can I share something real quick?
Absolutely.
I'm coming up here so they can hear me. You all probably are aware of this, but it's this tab right here. For those on Zoom and those who are here, it's this tab right here on the homepage of the website, where before the end of the day today, all of the packets will be put here because there's a lot of quick links, because I'm getting questions in the chat about send us the link to EC Impact, send us this link, send us this link. All the links will be right here before we leave the end of the day today. The only possible exception to that, because I cannot control Zoom. Can you believe I can't control Zoom? And how quickly they're gonna render this very long meeting? It might be Monday before I get the recording back to put the recording here, but everything will be here, as well as, see the black box over there? After this meeting, that will then change to quick links for everything for the application of funding too. So it should be super easy, straight from the homepage, to get to all the information you need. Any questions about that? Okay, very good. Thank you.
With you doing prevention or early intervention services, all 5 of the screening tools need to be embedded, regardless of which pot of money you're doing an application for.
You need to have, this is for all prevention early intervention providers. You need to have a plan of how you would utilize those tools if there became a case, like, I know that some are gonna be school-based teaching curriculum in a classroom. You're probably not going to necessarily be doing universal screenings. But for those of us that have worked in direct services and prevention, we know things come up and you need to have a plan of how you're going to address that in a procedure.
We have a, sorry, go ahead. We have a question on chat.
Yep.
Can unused funds be used for program fees or rent?
No. But for treatment or prevention?
It's Tawana, that helps.
Hi, Tawana. Hope you can hear me. Great question. I can't answer that question specifically because we need to see where those unused dollars are. And for treatment, that's going to be a little bit different than for prevention. And so historically, because you are a recovery house, the dollars are utilized for your per diem daily bed rate, and that's what that would be utilized for.
Just a quick question. I'm from Louisiana.
Will you speak up a little bit?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna feedback on her statement of making sure we're addressing the right areas of concern in the communities. Because Adams have a place that you can go, that you can say, okay, here are all these programs and grants available. Here are the statistics that say, because you say you want to be data driven when you start looking at the applications, do you have a place that has the statistics that say, hey, look, I'm going to apply for this grant because this is where the problem area is, this county. Is there somewhere that we can look that have those kind of numbers from that?
Yeah, I don't know if you picked up one of these, but we have our behavioral health roadmap, which is on, it's not up there, which is on our website under the, I believe, of the About Us column. So behavioral health roadmap, public health, community health assessment. And then I believe our community plan also has statistics in it as well. So those are the 3 that I would look at. It doesn't include statistics, but we're also going to be considering our board strategic plan, which is also on our website. So the only thing that wouldn't be on our website is public health, community health assessment, but it's on public health website.
It's that would be a way to kind of say, here's the programs
Yeah.
that we would be the most important.
Right, and just keep in mind, did you say you're with Mercy Manor? Yeah, just keep in mind, the statistics, yes, we utilize that to drive some of the decisions that we make. But keeping in mind for treatment and supportive services, that minimum requirement alongside our board strategic plan, that's where we're putting our focus right now, because within Ohio Revised Code, those are the services we must have in our community.
I didn't see in the prevention packet the general balance application, the one had for the unobligated. And I know you said you didn't know how much money was in it. I didn't know if it is the same rules or what.
Yes, so, good question. The question was around, for those of you online, in terms of the general balance for those that are applying for any remaining local funds, how you apply for those. So when you get on EC Impact and you go through the application, there will be a place where you indicate which funds you're applying for. And so please keep in mind, if you are applying for your own carryover, that application is due sooner. And that's gonna be a different application. But if you're applying for any of those remaining funds, which technically they're attached to the same fund, there's just like I think there's a tab on the bottom, Vic, correct me if I'm wrong. There's just a tab on the bottom where they can put an amount, correct? Yeah. So it's not broken down necessarily on here, but it's the additional fund that we're using for anything else that can't be covered by state or federal.
So you have to figure out your amount that you need to apply for it. And you can apply for both, since they're on the same tab at the same time, or you could do one and then the other.
Carryover will be set, so if you have carryover, that's gonna be a separate application and a separate budget, yes.
Okay.
For the primary prevention, did I hear that correctly? And I'm reading that that's really just for PACs or the health and wellness coordinators.
Correct, but as I said, when you see the electronic version of this, there's a document link that goes over exactly what that is. Essentially, it's like a prevention specialist in a school that helps the school coordinate what prevention services they're going to have in place. And like they're doing their assessment and they're trying to get, sometimes they themselves will carry out prevention services. So just look that over. I'm guessing we're gonna have multiple providers applying for that. And that's not something that we've funded with one of our behavioral health providers in the past. So that will be a new program. You're welcome.
When does the application for general funds open? Say 3, right?
Can you clarify what that means?
Prevention or treatment?
Yeah. When you say general
I
fund,
think, I think that only pertains to prevention. That will be today at 3.
I guess I'm just confused. So do you want us to apply for the carryover funds first, wait for feedback, and then apply for general funds?
Good question. The answer to that is no. We likely won't have that figured out just with that quick of a turnaround. We're only gonna have a week. So no, apply for the carryover first and then apply for whatever you need in that next application, like more of like the general application.
Okay, but both of those applications are going to be open today.
Correct. I will say the carryover application is not as detailed as the other application. Other questions?
Is it possible to give unspent treatment dollars to our prevention funds?
That's
I will let her answer that. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm gonna go back to Ohio Revised Code, chapter 340. -033 or 34, whichever that is. We have minimum requirements for our community. So we have got to make sure we have those services. So it would be very unlikely that anything left over from treatment would be able to funnel over to prevention.
Anything else? Okay, I think we've got all the questions answered.
All right, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to, around prevention, feel free to reach out to myself or Vic. We are going to have to publish them on an FAQ that will be available on the website. Same will go for Kimberly and the treatment division, so give us a little bit of time to turn those around, but those will be published for you.
All right.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
This out because I think this is kind of unique. So. if you want me to-